Budget 2026, the growth agenda.
Welcome to this very special post-budget conversation. We have with us Finance Ministry Brass, we have Expenditure Secretary Man Saab and CA Chief Economic Advisor Anant Nageshwaran. Welcome both of you. I would like to start by asking you, Man Saab, that the borrowing, if you see the figure 17.2 lakh crore, and in fact it's going mainly towards the capex. So what's the thought process behind that? And it's a bit unusual actually. So if you could just elaborate a bit the thought process behind that.
The capex has been something which the government has been focusing on for quite some time now. And if you go back and compare it to say about 10 or 11 years back, we have multiplied it by about 5.5 times. So it's something which is very much in the focus of the government. And this year in the budget for 26-27, it continues and it has reached an even bigger number. And it's also based on the quality of work that we are finding our infrastructure ministry is doing. So it's really a focus, as you rightly said. Yeah.
See, sir, the nominal GDP actually is at 10%. So looks like a conservative number to me. That's one. So why this is kept at 10%. And the second one, I would like to understand that with new base, year coming in, kicking in from, very soon, this month itself. So do we see that revision in both real GDP and the nominal GDP?
See, I think you're right. First of all, 10% is conservative. I would probably use the word prudent. So we took a real GDP range of 6.8 to 7.2 in our economic survey. So if you take 7 as a midpoint, then effectively it means a deflator of 2.8% to arrive at 10% nominal GDP, which is higher than this year. So there is an acknowledgement of the fact that base effects will play a role and deflator will be higher than this year. Now, how high it should be can be a matter of discussion. We feel this is reasonable estimate. We have not factored in the new base year and the new GDP base itself. I think we will cross the bridge when we get there, because if the orders of magnitude are not big in terms of the changes that are happening, then these numbers will survive intact.
Why I'm asking, because it's very close, because you will have your second advance estimates and the revision is coming on that day.
Yes.
So that's why
I understand that, but my point is, last time, if I'm not mistaken, the 2011-12 base year revision happened in 14-15, and I think the base was lower by about 2%. So if you have a plus or minus 2% kind of swing, in the larger scheme of things, it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect your growth assumptions or the debt and deficit ratios, etc., in any meaningful way. Yeah.
Coming to the steps, if I would ask from the expenditure department side, what exactly are you taking in terms of rationalizing the expenditure? And I quote FY26, if you see the number for this fiscal, it's 49, and you're increasing it to 53.2. So that's 7% increase. Usually we see increase in expenditure rate to at least 10%. So why this conservative, growth in terms of, keeping the expenditure target?
The expenditure numbers, the budgets come out really through or as an outcome of a very detailed discussion that we have with each of our departments. So each department, all the schemes, their officers come, we sit together, we discuss the trend of expenditure, the activities they have managed to put on the ground, the new rules, regulations, whatever. So it's a totaling of requirements that each of the departments for all their schemes combined come up. So it's not so much that we are looking at a target of some resultant figures. So it's really a realistic budgeting for the requirements of the departments. Now within that, what we have done is, for instance, while the DBT is well known, and DBT now covers 327 schemes. Why I mention here is, it's one of the ways of efficiency in expenditure. If monies have to be given to some beneficiaries, it goes directly without meandering anywhere. It goes without getting diverted anywhere. So DBT now covers practically all our schemes. In fact, just the President's address, if you go back, it says 6.75 lakh crore rupees were disbursed through the DBT mechanism in the last year itself. So it's become a very big thing where efficiency of expenditure has come in. The other one, which is not much talked about, but which we are finding it to be very important and very useful, is what we call the SNA Sparsh. Now, the name is a bit long, the abbreviation, but it's basically a IT-based public finance management system. So the entire transactions result in what we call a just-in-time money flow. So when a scheme requires money, whether even it's at the state level, when they require X amount, exactly that amount goes to them. There's no idling or parking of money anywhere. So these are the ways in which then ultimately all this adds up to our borrowing cost. So these are the ways in which we try and bring efficiency. Yeah.
CA sir, coming to you on Finance Commission, retaining that 41% share. What's your assessment? What's your reading on that?
No, I think I feel under the scheme or under the circumstances in which there are genuine expenditure compulsions on both for the union and the state governments, the Finance Commission retaining the vertical devolution at the same rate as the previous commission did, I think it appears reasonable to me.
But the demand was actually equal, like 50-50%. But
look, this is not something which one can answer off the cuff, because there are genuine, as I said, there are genuine expenditure compulsions on both sides. The global environment is different. The infrastructure requirements are different. And we have to also look at strategic resilience, as the economic survey mentioned, in several areas. So there are genuine compulsions for higher expenditure on both sides. So this balance that the Finance Commission has struck seems to be a reasonable one to me.
Can I chip in there?
yeah, sure, sir.
So, when we discuss the vertical devolution, the 41%, whatever the Finance Commission has recommended and government has accepted, over and above that, for instance, the entire centrally sponsored schemes, presently about 5 lakh crore of rupees, again goes to the states, from the central government. Then again, the various grants which the Finance Commission, for instance, this time they have made the local body grants very big, 7.9 lakh crores. So now those are all funds which will go from Government of India to the state governments. So if you add up, in fact, it goes far beyond the 41%. So it's quite a well worked out vertical devolution. That is what we see here.
And a related one, actually, on the since we are talking about states, I wanted to ask you on the centrally sponsored schemes. When do you planning to actually rationalize those schemes? Because we are seeing a substantial allocation in those schemes which have not really performed, like your Jal Jeevan.
The evaluation or the examination of the schemes is an ongoing process at different levels and through different mechanisms. And in fact, now that the 15 Finance Commission period has ended, all those schemes which will continue in the new FC period would again go through an appraisal process. So that is one. But since you mentioned a particular scheme, we look at each scheme very carefully, that it delivers to the last mile what is required to be delivered, that the JJM should deliver the tap water to each household that it has to deliver. But definitely the streamlining, the fine-tuning is going on, and this coming financial year we expect a very speedy and also a substantial implementation of that scheme in a strengthened kind of format. Yeah.
Sure. CA sir, on the fiscal deficit, we are staying on course, 4.4% for this fiscal and 4.2%. But what's your kind of view on that? If you could just elaborate a bit.
Yeah.
Are we staying on the fiscal glide path?
Undoubtedly. I mean, the fiscal deficit is down by 10 basis points between the RE and the BE of this year, RE of 25-26 and BE of 26-27. And if you look at the union government fiscal debt to GDP ratio is expected to come down by 0.5%. from 56.1 to 55.6. I think after having achieved a fairly substantive consolidation over the last 5 years, the government has always been doing it in a manner by which conservative assumptions are made both for a revenue buoyancy, nominal GDP growth, etc. And it is continuing that tradition, not to overpromise, but to underpromise and overdeliver. And also keeping in mind the circumstances in the world, it is good not to overpromise, but to keep it realistic. And that is what this, at the same time, send a signal that we are staying on the path of fiscal consolidation, and that is what the budget has done.
You want to comment on that, like on the fiscal deficit? We are staying on course, of course. So what's your sense with new, the new base year is also kicking in? And the second part is that what all you have taken into consideration while deciding this, given the point that we still facing the tariff turmoil?
I'll put it this way, the fiscal prudence or ensuring that the macroeconomic stability remains is something which is really a central focus of the government, and we have managed to do that. And while the uncertainty internationally has been going on and looks like will go on for some more time, but I think it is this fiscal prudence which has really put us on a strong footing, and we will continue to do that. And within that, in fact, the ability to meet the whatever expenditure requirements, whether it's for capex or for any of the other initiatives that are there, is really a priority, and we will continue that. And that is what we do. Yeah.
Quickly want to check on that survey suggested to be, as far as states are concerned, especially the election-bound states, you should be caution, when it comes to freebies, especially if you are giving or decide to give, it should be conditional. Any serious thought have been given to that suggestion? I mean, of course, survey suggested that, so I'm just asking whether government is considering that suggestion.
But on state finances, as you know well, it's a system of cooperative federalism, in the sense that we don't interfere to the level of have this scheme, do not have that scheme. But as the Constitution has envisaged, their borrowings have to be with our concurrence. So that is where a dialogue happens. Now, whether the unconditional cash transfers are sort of something which can be just done with unending benefits, or there are trade-offs, are things which the economic survey has pointed out, which various international agencies have studied, and where there are different aspects to it. So we would leave it to the wisdom of the states on the specifics of the schemes that they implement or they expand, but on the broader fisc, what is the level of borrowing that they should do. In fact, the 16th Finance Commission has reiterated that coordination which happens between the GOI and the states is a very important element. It should be sort of, in fact, I think the word they've used is strictly enforced. So we will go on that path, and I'm confident that states will, going forward, take optimal decisions.
That's the wrap of this special conversation. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello and welcome to this very special post-budget conversation. You're watching NDTV Profit. We have with us CBDT Chairman Ravi Agrawal and CBIC Chairman Vivek Chaturvedi. Welcome you both, sir. I'd like to start with Ravi Agrawal, sir. STT actually come as a surprise for everybody, so I wanted to start, from that. What's the rationale behind hiking the rate? I know you will say that it's not much; it's just a number. But what's the rationale behind it? I'm sure it's not about revenue. Are you somewhere try to sort of curb speculative trading?
I think you have answered your question.
But I wanted to elaborate.
You have made this my job easy, in fact. But actually before, sorry for digressing, but then before I actually answer this question, I'll also want to put the things in perspective, in the sense that what all changes and attempts have been made in this budget, insofar as the overall approach of the tax department is concerned, tax administration is concerned. So that's also a very important aspect that I thought that one should flag. And what we need to see is that since last 2 years, how are we making the changes and whether it is in continuum with what has happened in the past. Especially because from 1/4/26, the new income tax with simplified language is going to be the basic document on which the tax administration would rest. And therefore, this budget actually makes some fundamental changes in the overall governance patterns which should not be missed, because we talk about decriminalization, we talk about minimizing litigation, we talk about providing incentives to the people to comply, giving more and more opportunities to people at different stages of the proceedings. You see, these are fundamental changes in tax governance which is going to impact the compliance and the sentiment of the taxpayers. So that is the first thing that I just wanted to flag. The other is, of course, when you talk about STT, as you very rightly said, that it's not a question of garnering tax revenue. It is basically in the perspective like that in the FNO segment. If you see the last 2 years, especially last year, the growth in the volumes has risen rather exponentially. And the common investor, retail investor, broadly, it is reported, broadly has lost. The nature of the transaction is more speculative. So this is an attempt from the tax department, from the government, to actually put a check or to, if I may say, discourage the investors such as a retail investor to undertake this nature of transaction. And you would see that the rise in this raise has been done only in the FNO segment. Wherever there is a case of an investment as such, the STT remains the same, right? So basically targeting only on the FNO segment where the volumes are rising exponentially. You see, the statistics reflects that 500 times of the GDP, country's GDP, that is the volume trade, right? And therefore we have to be conscious about it.
But actually the time is critical for the proposed announcement, because it's coming at a time when we are already facing the tariff turmoil. We are seeing the sell-off from the foreign institution invested. Do you have factor in all those impact? Because of course the market also reacted today. Did you factor in all those while during the exercise of this whole STT changes?
Yes, so this factor was of course considered, and that is why this rates, we arrived at the rates, whatever has been proposed, keeping in view the entire, parameters, I would say, and the implications that it would have.
Okay. Coming to you, Vivek, sir, custom duty overhaul. We have seen the rate rationalization of host of items today announced by FM ma'am. And in fact, wanted to understand from you that is this the beginning of the overhaul, or do you think this is it? And because I'm saying it's custom 2.0, that's what they call it. So is this the beginning, or do you think that there's more to come?
So I'll answer your question in two parts. If you look at the budget announcements of the Honorable Finance Minister, the rates are one part, and the second is the process reforms. Now, customs by very nature being dynamic, it's always a very evolving situation. So process reforms is something that we have come up with in a very big way this time. And as situations evolve, these will also continue to evolve. The response of the government to look at specific sectors, specific issues that are being raised either by the importer or the exporters, I think it's a very dynamic environment. So I think you can't really say it's the start of it or the end of it. It's perhaps a stage where we thought that there were certain sectors, for example, the baggage rules. We haven't done anything for the last 10 years. So this was as good a time to revisit the baggage rules, bring it in line with the realities of today, and see to it that things are, aligned more to the realities. So Just by way of an example, like what we did with the courier regulations or with the baggage rules or with a host of other customs process reforms like the AEO facilitation, this is a very, very evolving landscape. So it's not that it's just the sum of it all that has happened or been announced today.
So
It
can we expect Custom 3.0 as well?
the nomenclature is your privilege, but as I said, customs being dynamic by its very nature, it is something which the government is always aware about as to what are the issues, and we keep looking at it.
No, and why I'm asking so, because India has signed FTAs, a host of FTAs, and the recent one with the European Union. We are hoping to close the deal with India, US as well. So custom plays a very important role there.
Yes.
So are you factoring in, those items as well, keeping in mind that you're expecting a deal with America?
No, I would say that when you're looking at a FTA deal, then it's a whole of a government approach. It's not simply customs. Customs is, of course, a very critical component of that part, but there are the line ministries. There is a nodal ministry involved in a FTA negotiation. So the geopolitical reality and the economic reality, plus the fact that the level of protection that needs to be given to our industry so that imports don't flood. I think that's a very, very important consideration when we go for the FTA talks.
Coming to you, Ravi sir, I know we are short of time. Quickly, what has exactly changed in the minimum alternative tax? If you could elaborate a bit for our viewers.
See, till now, minimum alternative tax, the concept was that the taxpayer, in the old regime, based on the book profit, would pay a minimum tax of 15%. And at the same time calculate the tax liability on the income which is computed as per the Income Tax Act. And then there would be a comparison whether the minimum tax that is paid at the rate of 15% is more or less than the tax liability based on the total income as per the Income Tax Act. Suppose it is more, then whatever credit was available from the prior years, that the person would get that credit. And suppose it is less, the tax liability based on the total income, that credit would be carried forward to the next year. So this was the process. Now what has been changed is we are honoring whatever credit is accumulated till 31st of March 26. Okay. So that is the that is a promise from the government, so that credit would be maintained. Okay. But going forward, this minimum alternative tax would be actually a minimum tax. Okay. So therefore 15% has been reduced to 14%. Okay. The person pays 14%, the company pays 14%, and no credit as such is taken forward in respect of this 14%. But whatever credit has been actually accumulated, that can be availed of provided the entity moves to the new regime. So that's basically one persuasion for the entity to move towards the new regime. Once the person moves towards the new regime, the credit that the person would be having would be available would be 1/4 of whatever is the tax liability based on the total income. Okay. So therefore, if the tax liability is suppose X, so therefore the credit would be 0.25X. You can reduce it from the overall tax liability.
So it's not really phasing out of MAT, or it's more of a streamline?
It is more of a streamline. It is basically you don't continue this MAT scheme for long, forever. You have to put a stop, and that is how we are going to, which is equitable, because on one hand you're reducing the rate of tax from 15% to 14%, and the otherwise overall in the old regime it was 30% was the tax rate. In the new regime, it is 22. As such, the tax liability goes down, right? And the person gets a credit, whatever was accumulated.
Also, a quick clarity on the reassessment proceeding, because that has also been
So that's a
announced.
very important change that has been brought forward in this, brought out in this act, which is that in case when a case is picked up for scrutiny and a notice is given, even at that point in time, the taxpayer has a opportunity to update his return, and whatever issue has been flagged based on that notice, the person can actually come forward, pay the tax, and then be done with it. Second step is, even after the person has participated in the proceedings and then a tax liability is fastened on the taxpayer based on the assessment, at that point also there is a opportunity for the taxpayer to actually settle the case. So this is basically an attempt to minimize the tax litigation and also to prompt the taxpayer to actually participate in the proceedings and come clean ASAP.
Quickly, sir, from you, there were a lot of talks around duty reduction in also custom duty reduction in precious metal, gold and silver, keeping in mind the surge we are seeing. But it wasn't, there in the announcement today. Any thought on that? Because it may lead to gold smuggling as well.
No, you see, the gold smuggling, of course, is something that customs as a department is very, very aware of.
Did you give us any serious thought of reducing the import duty on these precious metals?
No, there was no proposal for the time being.
Okay.
But it's always precious metals is always an ever-evolving thing. So it depends, of course, on a variety of factors, including the supply, the CAD position, as well as other ground realities.
Quickly on the tax collection figure, it has been to both of you. The gross collection has been kept at 44 trillion. Odd crore. Then for both the taxes, I've seen the numbers, it's been moderated. So why to keep that conservative number? Is any factor around it?
See, it is dependent on the GDP. So the GDP estimated is 8% nominal, and the tax buoyancy that we are envisaging is 1.07. So that's a reflection of the tax efficiency, the tax administration's efficiency. So the tax collection targets are more, the growth in the tax collection targets are more than the growth in the GDP. So from that perspective, you see that it is okay.
On the excise duty, we have seen the increase by 51,000 crore. Is it, you have kept that new excise duty in mind, and that's why the increase?
Yes, that is the reason, yes.
Okay. Well, that's the wrap of this special conversation. Thank you very much, sir, joining us for this, conversation post-budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Budget 2026, the growth agenda.